All right, how's everybody doing today? Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, and we are live here for a special edition of the African History Network show. So many of you all saw my Facebook post today. And we shared the live press conference that President Joe Biden did today, dealing with his announcement of student loan forgiveness. And a lot of you all, some of you all saw the press conference. I posted about it, did a number of posts on social media, interacting with some of my Facebook friends as well. And there's a lot that people don't understand about what took place today. So we're going to break it down and let you know how significant this is, because this is huge. Okay. We're going to give you the facts on this and point you to some resources where you can do more research as well. But this is going to provide some type of student loan relief for up to $43 million, for up to 43 million student loan borrowers. Okay, so everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So let me know. Okay, I'm testing the audio, so let me know if you can hear me all right as well. Okay, so if we look at this graphic here, I want to pull this graphic up, and then we're going to look at some of the press conference from today. And then we're going to look at some fact sheets on this to give you a better idea of what's taking place. And this is an example of how elections have consequences. This is going to have a big economic impact for many people, especially many African Americans. Okay, so what to know about Biden's student loan forgiveness plan? Okay, number one, it forgives up to $10,000 in student loan debt if you only have student loans and no Pell Grants. All right. If you have a combination of student loans and Pell Grants, then up to $20,000 will be forgiven. Okay. Now, some people say, well, wait a second. I thought Pell Grants you don't pay back. Yes, but a lot of people, especially over the past 5 to 10 years or so, because of the increase in the cost of going to college, a lot of people have to get a combination of Pell Grants and student loans. It used to be years ago that Pell Grants would cover about close to 80% of your tuition. Today, they only cover about 32% of your tuition, and people have to take out student loans as well. So this is going to have a huge impact. So you have forgiveness up to 20% for Pell Grant recipients. And this applies to, so this is means tested. So it applies to people whose annual income is $125,000 or less. If you are a married couple, under $250,000 a year. Okay. Also, final student loan repayment pause will be extended throughout the year. So those that are paying on student loans, you start paying on those January 2023. And this other part right here is huge. We're going to go through and break down the whole thing. This other part right here is huge. This applies to everyone who has a student loan, regardless of income level. Undergraduate loan repayment will be capped at 5% of income. Right now, it's capped at 10% of income. 10% of discretionary income is going to be, under this new program, undergraduate loan repayment will be capped at a maximum 5% of income. Okay, 5% of discretionary income, which will save people. It's estimated it is going to save people more than $1,000 for both current and future borrowers. Okay, all right. So we're going to go through and break all this down, what this means. Share this information on your social media platforms as well. Invite people to tune in also. This is an example of how elections have consequences. Now, I hear people talking and, oh, this is nothing, this blah, blah, blah. Okay. What are Republicans offering? What are Republicans offering? Because you had back in May 2022. Now, on the African History Network show, and when I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered, because I'm a panelist every Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered, I have been talking about the student loan debt forgiveness that has already been taking place. Already $32 billion has been forgiven under the Biden-Harris administration, and that affects about 1.5 million people. That's already been taking place before this. We see the public service loan forgiveness program, the changes to that. It was just announced in the past few days, $3.9 billion in student loan debt forgiven for those who went to ITT Tech, okay? Because the Biden-Harris administration has been cracking down on for-profit colleges, all right? And ITT Tech was one of those for-profit colleges that was put out of business under the under the Obama-Biden administration. ITT Tech and Corinthian College. Okay, so we'll give you some information on that as well. I was trying to bring up this article here from BusinessInsider.com. So you had 5 Republicans in the Senate back in May 2022. 5 Republicans, including Senator Willard Mitt Romney, who introduced a bill to strip Joe Biden of his ability to discharge student loan debt. Okay, how many people heard about this? Okay, so when people think this is not a lot of money, no, it's not. And if you think this is not a lot of money, whatever amount of money you think is not a lot, you can send to the African History Network, because we can definitely use it. $ TheAHNShow through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. All right. I'm having problems bringing up this article here from BusinessInsider.com. Okay, so we'll wait on that to load up. But let's look at, let's go to the press conference, okay? I want to go to the press conference that took place today. Then we're going to go through, look at some fact sheets here, and break all this down for you. All right, so there's a huge press conference today at the White House, and let me test the audio. Should be good. Let's go to this press conference.
Well, good afternoon. When America made 12 years of public education universal in the last century, we became, not figuratively, literally, the best educated public in the world, and better prepared than any other nation. And I would argue that it's one of the reasons why we were so successful and have been so successful. But as you've all observed, other nations have caught up. In the 21st century, in my view, I think the vast majority of Americans, 12 years of universal education is not enough. And that we're going to be outcompeted by the rest of the world if we don't take action. But here's the deal. The cost of education beyond high school has gone up significantly. The total cost to attend a public 4-year university has tripled, nearly tripled in 40 years. Tripled. Instead of properly funding public colleges, many states have cut back their support. We were just talking about that in the Oval. Many states have cut back support for their state universities, leaving students to pick up more of the tab. And for 50 years, Pell Grants had been a key way for the federal government to help lower-income families, particularly those earning less than $60,000 a year, to send their kids to college. Those Pell Grants used to cover 80% of the cost of going to a public 4-year college. Today, Pell Grants cover roughly 32%. That's 1/3 of the cost as opposed to before. It matters. I remember walking up, and now my dad, like probably a lot of your folks, cared a lot about your education. My dad's greatest regret was that he never got to go to college. And my dad was a very well-read man, particularly history, and but it was a great regret. And you always say, "Joey, you're going to be a college man." And I'd say, "Dad, but what does that matter? I mean, you can still get fired if you're a college man." He said, "Yeah, but they can never take it away from you. They can never take your education away." And I remember my senior year, I got into one of the little Ivies, and I got into a number of schools, and we're trying to get the money, even with financial assistance, to be able to go there. We had 4 kids, all of us wanting to go to school, and I remember going down after a baseball game. I went to a really good school up in Claymont, Delaware, on the Pennsylvania border, and drove down to Newark, Delaware, where my dad worked at an automobile agency. And I walked in, and I had my spikes, and because the reason I was going down, when your dad works in an automobile agency, the great advantage, you get a new car to go to the prom, or a good used car off the lot. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. And so I went down to my 51 Plymouth with beach towels for seat covers, and I had my uniform on, my spikes off. I ran in, and the woman, whose name was Mary, who ran the place, I said, "Mary, where's Dad?" She said, "He's out in the lane going into the repair shop." Give him my word, true story. And my dad was a well-dressed, refined fella, and I walked out, and my dad was pacing back and forth between.
And just so people are clear, because you got people who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, and then they want to talk about billions for Ukraine, which came from Congress, not Biden, because Congress appropriates based upon Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the U.S. Constitution. Congress appropriates funds, the president signs off on it. So when you have, so it's important for people, this is what happens when people don't read. How much is this going to cost taxpayers? How much will this cost the federal government and taxpayers? According to an estimate using the model that the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania developed, the Wharton Business School is one of the top business schools in the country. The cost of the $10,000 cancellation initiative alone could raise between $300 billion to $980 billion of taxpayer dollars. What the hell does Ukraine have to do with this? The annual federal budget is $5.8 trillion. The 2023 annual federal budget, which is at whitehouse.gov, you can read it yourself, is $5.8 trillion. What the hell does money for Ukraine have to do with this? Come on, people. I don't know where y'all get this simple Simon ass nonsense from. All right, let's continue. This is why here we deal with facts and evidence. All that bullshit y'all see floating around on social media, we don't deal with that here. This is I'm a researcher. I don't do stuff like that. Okay.
Seat covers.
Let's go back to this.
And I had the big garage door going into the repair shop, and the door going out of the showroom. And he looked up. He said, "Oh, Joey, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I thought, God, something happened. This is before cell phones. So something happened to one of my brothers or my sister or my mom or something. I said, "What's the matter, Dad?" He said, "I went to see," the guy's name was Charlie Delcher, who was a vice president of the Farmers Bank, which was a state-owned bank that did a lot of the financing of people wanting to purchase a car. He said, "I went to Charlie and asked to borrow the money." He said, "He won't lend it to me." He said, "I'm so ashamed. I'm so damn ashamed." You know, my dad would, my dad was like millions of parents all across the country. Want to help the kids to get to school, but there was just no way to be able to do it. And because he believed, as I do, that education was a ticket to a better life. But something Jill and I, Kamala and Doug, we understand deeply. I'm sure the vast majority of you do as well. But over time, that ticket has become too expensive for too many Americans. All this means is an entire generation is now saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for an attempt, at least, at a college degree. The burden is so heavy that even if you graduate, you may not have access to the middle-class life that the college degree once provided. Many people can't qualify for a mortgage to buy a home because of the debt they continue to carry. They carry, it's too high, and they can't come up with the down payment anyway. A lot of folks are even putting off starting families because of the cost. And the dream of starting their own business is just way off in the distance with the debt that so many are saddled with. Many of you had to leave school because of financial strain was much too high. About a third of the borrowers have debt but no degree, and worst of both worlds, debt and no degree. The burden is especially heavy on Black and Hispanic borrowers, who on average have less family wealth to pay for it. They don't own their homes to borrow against to be able to pay for college. And the pandemic only made things worse. But we responded aggressively to the pandemic to minimize the economic impact of the harm of COVID imposed on individuals, families, and businesses. You all were there. It was recovery. Look, we increased unemployment benefits for workers who were laid off. We provided loans to small businesses so they could stay afloat and take care of their families and their employees. We provided assistance to people to put food on the table. Remember those long lines you guys would all film of cars? Decent looking cars, not jalopies, nice cars. Just waiting for a box of food to be put in the trunk in the United States of America? Waiting for over an hour to get food in a trunk? And we provided rent and mortgage assistance to keep people from being evicted and thrown out in the street. Our approach to help Americans who need it the most was necessary, and it was the right thing to do, and it helped people avoid financial crisis, which helped our whole country as a consequence of that. That didn't benefit them, it benefited the whole economy. Our approach is why America's economic recovery was faster and stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. Now it's time to address the burden of student debt in the same way. Working closely with the Secretary of Education, he's got the hard job, Secretary Cardona. Here's what my administration is going to do to provide more breathing room for people so they have less burden by student debt. And quite frankly, to fix the system itself, which when we came in, we both acknowledged was broken in terms of, anyway. There are three key factors what we're going to do today. First, we've made incredible progress advancing America's economic recovery. We've wound down pandemic relief programs like the ones on unemployment insurance and small businesses. It's time we do the same thing for student loans. Student loan payments pause is going to end. It's going to end December 30. I'm extending to December 31st, 2022, and it's going to end at that time. It's time for the payments to resume. Second, my campaign for president, I made a commitment. That would provide student debt relief. And I'm honoring that commitment today. Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans. In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000. Both of these targeted actions are for families who need it the most. Working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic, making under $125,000 a year. If you make more than that, you don't qualify. No high-income individual or high-income household on top of the 5%, in the top 5% of incomes, by the way, will benefit from this action, period. In fact, about 90% of the eligible beneficiaries make under $75,000 as family. Here's what that means. If you make under $125,000, you get $10,000 knocked off your student debt. If you make under $125,000 a year and you received a Pell Grant, you'll get an additional $10,000 knocked off that total, for a total of $20,000 relief. 95% of the borrowers can benefit from these actions. That's 43 million people. Of the 43 million, over 60% are Pell Grant recipients. That's 27 million people who will get $20,000 in debt relief. Nearly 45% can have their student debt fully canceled. That's 20 million people who can start getting on with their lives. All this means people can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt, to get on top of their rent and their utilities, to finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business. And by the way, when this happens, the whole economy is better off. In the coming weeks, the Department of Education will lay out in detail a short and simple form to apply for this relief, along with information when this application process opens. By resuming student loan payments at the same time as we provide targeted relief, we're taking an economically responsible course. As a consequence, about $50 billion a year will start coming back into the Treasury because of resumption of debt. Independent experts agree that these actions taken together will provide real benefits for families without meaningful effect on inflation. Let's be clear. I hear it all the time. How do we pay for it? We pay for it by what we've done. Last year, we cut the deficit by more than $350 billion. This year, we're on track to cut it by more than $1.7 trillion by the end of this fiscal year, the single largest deficit reduction in a single year in the history of America. And the Inflation Reduction Act is going to cut it by another $300 billion over the next decade because Medicare will be paying less for prescription drugs, and over $1 trillion if you add it out for the next 2 decades. The point is this: there's plenty of deficit reduction to pay for the programs, cumulative deficit reduction to pay for the programs many times over. I will never apologize for helping Americans, working Americans and middle class, especially not to the same folks who voted for a $2 trillion tax cut that mainly benefited the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations, that slowed the economy, didn't do a hell of a lot for economic growth, and wasn't paid for, and racked up this enormous deficit. Just as we've never apologized when the federal government forgave almost every single cent of over $700 billion in loans to hundreds of thousands of small businesses across America during the pandemic. No one complained that those loans caused inflation. A lot of these folks in small businesses are working in middle-class families. They needed help. It was the right thing to do. So the outrage over helping working people with student loans, I think, is just simply wrong, dead wrong. Third thing, we're fixing the student loan program system itself. We've talked about this at length. This is really important. We're proposing to make what's called an income-driven repayment plan simple and fair. And here's how. No one with an undergraduate loan today or in the future, whether for community college or a four-year college, will have to pay more than 5% of their discretionary income to repay their loan. That's income after you pay the necessities like housing, food, and the like. You currently pay 10%. We're cutting that in half to 5%. And after you pay your loan for 20 years, your obligation will be fulfilled if it hadn't already been fulfilled, meaning you won't have to pay any more, period. And borrowers whose original balance was less than $12,000, many of whom are community college students, will be done paying just after 10 years. These changes will save more than $1,000 a year on average for the borrower. It's a game changer. We're also fixing what's called, and this has been the bane of driving me crazy when I was out of office, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Now, this program forgives student loans to encourage those students who have those loans if they go and do public service. Think of the millions who are public school teachers, local police officers, workers at local charities, members of the military and the National Guard, and so many more. Think of the folks who work for federal, state, local, tribal governments, keeping essential services going, responding to natural disasters, all those firefighters and cops. The program is designed so that if you serve in one of these jobs, and we'll be able to list those and you'll be able to accurately assess whether you do, and make your loan payments for 10 years, even if it's not consecutive years, your remaining balance will be completely forgiven. It's a great idea, but the program's a mess. It's so inefficient and complicated, too many people just give up. Think of a service member who defers their student loan payment while they're deployed. The system is so restrictive that their active duty service didn't count as public service, and the loan isn't forgiven as promised. It's outrageous. Well, the man to my left is going to fix it. The Department of Education has recently proposed changes that will make this program work better and over the long term, much better. And now the department issues emergency temporary changes to retroactively credit public service so accounts and loans are forgiven. Since I've been in office, more than 175,000 teachers, nurses, police officers have been able to get over $10 billion in loan forgiveness so far through this program. But this opportunity expires on October 31st, 2022. So my message to all servants, all public servants, all those who are the ones that are volunteering, is out with student debt to go. Here's where you want to, if you're worried about how to do it, go to pslf.gov before October 31st to see if you qualify for public service student loan forgiveness. This is another game changer. And we're going to have people who are there to help get you, help direct you and work you through the process. And one more big change we're making to the system is we're holding colleges accountable for jacking up costs without delivering value to students. We've all heard of those schools luring students with a promise of big paychecks when they graduate, only to watch these students be ripped off and left with mountains of debt. And my predecessors looked the other way, for some reason, with good reason, to do anything about this fraud.
Okay, you can hear. Okay, Erica said yes. All right, thanks, Erica. Eric's clapping, and Erica, she's happy about the student loan forgiveness. All right, we've got Akhenaten and MJ. Okay, let's go back to this now. Biden is talking about the public service loan forgiveness program. Okay, and this is something that I've been talking about on the History Network show, especially when I was on Friday, and when I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Because when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, when I guest hosted, I made it a point that his producer asked me, okay, what are some of the topics you want to talk about? And they just did another round of student loan forgiveness, like in a day or two of me hosting. So I said, we have to talk about this because a lot of people don't know about this. Now, this article came out March 1st, 2022. And I've talked about it on my show, TheAHNShow.com. The other articles that deal with this. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. Okay. This is from March 1st, 2022. Let's close out some of these ads. Okay. I hate it. They want me to get another subscription, 15 subscriptions to all these different news sources. Under 8. Now, this is what Biden is talking about. Public service loan forgiveness program. Under a temporary expansion of a key federal student loan forgiveness program for public service workers, thousands of jobs will qualify and 1 million borrowers may ultimately benefit. This is going on right now. People are getting their student loans discharged through this right now. It's been going on since about March of this year. Okay. This is before the $10,000 to $20,000. So they go through and lay out the details. The new changes to student loan forgiveness program for public service workers. They go through, break this down. Teachers, police officers, EMT, fire department, things like this. Okay. So go read this article here, because this part, what Biden wrote out today, is dealing with 3 parts. We're going to go through the 3 parts here in just a minute. But one of those deals with the changes to the public service loan forgiveness program. Okay. So read this article here from Forbes.com. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. All right. Okay. I want to go back to the press conference here.
My administration is taking it on. For example, the Department of Education works with private education associations to accredit colleges and universities so they can receive federal aid. Well, last week, the Department of Education fired a college accreditor that allowed colleges like ITT and Corinthian to defraud borrowers. And combined with our emergency actions, the Public Service Forgiveness Program and other actions we've taken, we've been able to cancel more than $32 billion in student debt for 1.6 million borrowers, including those defrauded by these bad acting schools. Our goal is to shine a light on the worst actors so students can avoid these debt traps. Now, I understand not everything I'm announcing today is going to make everybody happy. Something is too much. I find it interesting how some of my Republican friends who voted for those tax cuts and others think that we shouldn't be helping these folks. Something is too little, but I believe my plan is responsible and fair. It focuses the benefit on middle class and working families. It helps both current and future borrowers, and will fix a badly broken system. And these actions build on my administration's effort to make college more affordable in the first place. It includes unprecedented investments, nearly $6 billion in historic black colleges and universities, much of which is focused on pandemic relief to help students cover tuition and other costs so they could stay in school. And I must be honest with you, I'm going to continue to fight for doubling the Pell Grants. I didn't get that done this time. Let me say it again. 12 years of universal education is not enough. I'm going to continue to work for universal pre-K for every 3- and 4-year-old, and universal community college for education beyond high school. Let me close with this. I ran for office to grow the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. Because when we do that, everybody does better. Everybody does well. The wealthy do very well, the poor have a way up, and the middle class can have breathing room. And that's going to help America win the economic competition of the 21st century, because much of my time is spent, how do we remain the most competitive nation in the world with the strongest economy in the world, with the greatest opportunities in the world? That's what today's announcement is about. It's about opportunity. It's about giving people a fair shot. It's about the one word America can be defined by, possibilities. It's all about providing possibilities. We're going to have a lot more to say about this. There's a lot of material that's going to be put out as to how this is being implemented. And I want to thank you all, and God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. President, how much advance notice did you have of the FBI's plan to search Mar-a-Lago?
I didn't have any advance notice. None. Zero. Not one single bit. Thank you.
Mr. President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses to see why these guys get them all affected? Is that fair? What do you think?
All right. So that was Peter Ducey's punk ass from Fox News that asked the question, how much advance notice did you get that the FBI was going to serve a search warrant at Trump's Mar-a-Lago? Okay. The question that Peter Ducey is a little spoiled brat. His father, Steve Ducey, who anchors Fox and Friends on Fox News Channel. Question Peter Ducey should have asked is, how long has the National Archives been trying to get the classified documents back from Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago? And what the hell is Donald Trump doing with over 300 classified documents when his dumb ass doesn't read? That's the questions Peter Ducey should have been asking. Okay. All right. So let's go through and break this down here. All right. Okay, now we got a question because somebody is texting me. Okay, so somebody was making me laugh and while we were playing the press conference. Okay, somebody special was texting me and sending me messages. So I talked about this early at the beginning. Some people may have missed it, and this is a little tricky. So the question is, I thought Pell Grants were free. Pell Grants are free, but as Biden mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, and those who are in college recently know, years ago, Pell Grants used to cover about 80% of your tuition, okay? But because of the rising cost of tuition, today, Pell Grants cover about 32%. So Pell Grants are based upon income and usually lower middle class, lower income people can apply for Pell Grants, and a grant you don't pay back. But over the last few years, because of the increasing cost of tuition, more and more people have had to take out a combination of Pell Grants and student loans. So if you had, what he's saying is, and this was something that was unexpected, because he ran on canceling $10,000 of student loan debt. But what he unveiled today is that if you have a combination of Pell Grants and student loan debt, you can get up to $20,000 discharged, $20,000 forgiven, up to $20,000 forgiven. All right. Now, he mentioned ITT Tech. Now, this is very important. I've talked about we're going to go through and break down all this stuff. Okay. So you can post your questions here. That's fine. All right. And if you have my number, you can text me also. Okay. I've talked about ITT Tech before, as well as Corinthian College. They were shut down under the Obama administration, because what the Obama administration did, and under his Department of Education, they cracked down on for-profit colleges. And you remember, you used to see the commercials for ITT Tech. You can come here and learn electronics and computer science, or whatever it is, right? And they would run the commercials, during Jerry Springer and Maury Povich during the daytime. They run these commercials. These were for-profit colleges like Corinthian College as well. These for-profit colleges disproportionately target African Americans and Latinos. And we're trying to better ourselves. So we may not want to go to a 4-year institution. We can go through one of these colleges that are specialized, and then we take out the student loans. We get saddled with student loan debt, and they don't place us in a job that will cause us to make the type of money that they said that they promised we were going to make when they were recruiting us, or maybe a job that really don't have a whole lot to do with the diploma or certification you got from ITT Tech or Corinthian College. Okay, so now this right here is from the Department of Education. Okay, ed.gov is Department of Education. So now this is from August 16th, 2022. August 16th, 2022. How many people heard about this? Education Department approves $3.9 billion group discharge for 208,000 borrowers who attended ITT Technical Institute. Okay, the department also initiates the formal process to recoup approved borrower defense claims from DeVry University. So they've been have announced student loan forgiveness for ITT Tech as well as Corinthian College, and they're working on something for DeVry University as well. Now, if you look at this, then we're going to get to the information today. But this is important because all this stuff has been going on. There's been about 1.5 million people who have already had their student loans discharged. Okay, this is before the announcement today. There was, and you're talking about, let me see, how much is that? You're looking at 32 billion. Yeah, 32 billion already discharged. I was having a conversation with somebody on social media earlier today. They didn't even know about this. This is the type of information that I've been talking about on the African History Network show. Okay, all that gossip and Simple Simon nonsense, we don't deal with that here. Erica watches the show. This is the type of information I've been dealing with. This is stuff you can use. This is stuff that will save you money. Okay. Today, this was August 16th that this came out. Today, the U.S. Department of Education announced that it will discharge all remaining federal student loans that borrowers received to attend ITT Technical Institute from January 1st, 2005 through its closure in September 2016. So if you have relatives who went to ITT Tech during that period of time and got settled with student loan debt, defaulted on the loan, things like this, they can get that discharged. That'll cause their credit score to go up, especially if they're living in your basement. That'll cause their credit score to get up. They can get up out of your basement. The decision which follows departmental findings based on extensive internal records, testimony from ITT tech managers and recruiters, and firsthand accounts from borrowers, will result in 208,000 borrowers receiving $3.9 billion in full loan discharges. This includes borrowers who have not yet applied for a borrower defense repayment discharge. These borrowers will have the federal student loans they receive to attend ITT Tech discharged without any additional action on their part. Discharged without any additional action on their part. Okay, so Education Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona, who you saw there in the video, he said it is time for student borrowers to stop shouldering the burden from ITT's years of lies and false promises. So this is what happened. And see, this goes back to the crackdown under the Obama administration on for-profit colleges, because they put some of them, the Obama, Biden Department of Justice, Department of Education put some of these for-profit colleges out of business, and others they put on notice. But under the Trump administration and Betsy DeVos, who had absolutely no business, Betsy DeVos had absolutely no business as Secretary of Education. Under the Trump Department of Education, they loosened restrictions on for-profit colleges. I wonder why. Didn't Donald Trump get caught running a fake university called Trump University, and he had to pay $24 million in restitution plus a $1 million fine? He got sued by the Attorney General in New York. Remember that? Trump University, the fake university. Is it any wonder why somebody who ran a fake university would loosen restrictions on for-profit colleges? Because that's what he was running. That's the type of hustle Trump was running. This is why I was warning people about him in 2015 and 2016. Okay, so read the rest of this here. Okay, the evidence shows that for years, ITT's leaders intentionally misled students about the quality of their programs in order to profit off federal student loan programs with no regard for the hardship this would cause. The Biden-Harris administration will continue to stand up for borrowers who've been cheated by their colleges while working to strengthen oversight and enforcement to protect today's students from similar deception and abuse. Once again, when you go research these for-profit colleges, they disproportionately targeted African Americans and Latinos, and we got saddled with this student loan debt. And the majority, I was looking at statistics today, the majority of the student loan defaults are for-profit colleges. They were advertised during the daytime, during Good Times and the Jeffersons and Maury Povich, all this stuff targeting us, right? And then we're trying to do the right thing, trying to better ourselves, etc. Okay, and then we get caught up. DeVry University, the Biden-Harris Department of Education is cracking down on DeVry University. The department also announced, now keep in mind, this is just from August 16th, 2022. How many people did not know this was taking place? The Department of Education also announced that it formally notified DeVry University that it is required to pay millions of dollars for approved borrower defense applications. DeVry University can submit information and arguments for why it should not be required to pay these liabilities, or request a hearing before the department's Office of Hearings and Appeals. Finally, the Department of Education under the Biden-Harris administration also announced the approval of discharges for just under 100 borrowers who enrolled in the Medical Assistance and Medical Billing and Coding program at Kaplan Career Institute's Kenmore location in Massachusetts from July 1st, 2011 to January 16, 2012. These borrowers, identified by Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey after an investigation, found that the institution repeatedly lied repeatedly lied about its job placement rates to borrowers, among other deceptive practices. The location closed in February 2013. Okay. So February 2013, that's under the Obama administration, because the Obama administration was cracking down on these for-profit colleges. And that's the same thing that the Biden-Harris administration is doing, and hold them accountable. And they're getting student loans discharged for people who were scammed by these for-profit colleges. Now, to date, because see, once again, a lot don't know that student loan forgiveness has already been taking place for about 1.5 million people. These are some of the things I've been talking about on the African History Network show. Today's actions brings the total amount of loan relief by the Biden-Harris administration to nearly $32 billion, nearly $32 billion for 1.6 million borrowers. That's before the announcement today. This type of loan forgiveness has been going on. This includes $13 billion related to institutions that took advantage of borrowers, the for-profit colleges. It represents the department's continued commitment to providing debt relief for eligible borrowers. Okay, this is an example of how elections have consequences. Okay, because under the Trump administration, we're going to post a link here on the thread of the broadcast. Go read this. This is at the Department of Education, ed.gov. Because under the Trump administration, they loosened the restrictions on for-profit colleges. It let them get away with a lot of stuff. Okay, now let's look at what happened today. Everybody all right? Okay, and even if you didn't, even if you have student loan debt and didn't graduate, you can still get it discharged as well. Okay, just so people know. Or look at the fact sheet here from whitehouse.gov, because I'm on whitehouse.gov almost every day. Whitehouse.gov is the official website of the White House. I encourage people to go to whitehouse.gov. Also, I want to deal with some information dealing with, because I have all these articles lined up here. I want to deal with some information dealing with people say, oh, Biden should just forgive all student loan debt. He does not have the authority to do that. He does not, based upon the Article 2 powers of the U.S. Constitution given to the executive branch of the federal government. He does not have the authority to do that. And people have been misunderstanding the Higher Education Act of 1965, thinking it gives him this authority. No, it doesn't. Now, something that's very interesting today, I was reading, number one, I read the fact sheet here from YGov, this right here. How many people read this? This is the fact sheet about the announcement today. Number two, I was reading articles from Washington Post, New York Times, NBC News, ABC News. Like, this is the ABC News article here that I printed out. I posted this article on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. This is the article from ABC News, okay? When you go through, President Biden announces student loan forgiveness, right? When you go through and look at these articles, especially when you look at the information from the White House, and I read the official memo. I read the official memo from the Department of Education today as well. This is the official memo from the Department of Education today dealing with the student loan forgiveness. None of this talks about an executive order. None of this talks about an executive order. We're going to get to why in just a minute, because when I went through and researched this information, this is going through the Department of Education, which is stipulated by the Higher Education Act of 1965. Biden does not have the authority through executive order to discharge his debt. And this is what a lot of the progressives are getting wrong. They're misunderstanding the Higher Education Act of 1965. He definitely doesn't have the authority to discharge $50,000 in student loan debt across the board. He does not have the authority to do that. But Congress does. So when I was watching, it used to be Rachel Maddow's show at 9. Now it's Wagner. When I was watching, she had Senator Elizabeth Warren on tonight. Okay. And Senator Elizabeth Warren wanted $50,000. You had people in the Congressional Black Caucus wanted $50,000. Congress has the authority to do that. But what Senator Elizabeth Warren has been saying for weeks, and I'm not just a historian, I do political analysis as well. I provide political analysis on my show and on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Reverend Al Sharpton had me guest co-host his radio show 3 Wednesdays ago. I was on for 2 hours with Reverend Al Sharpton, Keeping It Real, nationally syndicated radio show, about 30 cities across the country. To get student loan forgiveness passed in the Senate, you need 60 votes. No Republicans support this. No Republicans are going to vote for it. So a lot of progressives are trying to get Biden to do it. Biden don't have the authority to do it. We're going to get to more information on why he does not have the authority to do this. But let's go through and look at this here. Fact sheet. President Biden announces student loan relief for borrowers who need it most. August 24th, 2022. A ton of information. This is where I do a lot of research. Whitehouse.gov. What is Whitehouse.gov? Official website of the White House. This is where the press releases are. This is where the fact sheets are on all these policies. This is where you've heard me talk about the 19-page document that deals with how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are helping and benefiting the African-American community. And you heard me talk about it on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You've heard me talk about it on my show. Where is it located? Whitehouse.gov. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black people and communities across the country. It's 19 pages. This is just through February 28th. This doesn't even include the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. This doesn't include Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. This doesn't include the 300 policies they released in April across 90 federal agencies to deal with systemic racism and things like this. That was the follow-up to Executive Order 13985, because Biden, on his first day in office, January 20th, 2021, he signed 10 executive orders. One of those executive orders was Executive Order 13985. So this is why when I hear people say Biden isn't doing anything to help Black people, I'm like, yo, Simple Simon ass don't read a damn thing. The evidence is there. If you just did something as simple as Google, how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped African Americans? This is the first thing that comes up. This is why, see, there's a real disinformation campaign going on attacking the African American community. And some of them are our own people out here lying to us. And they have to be getting paid to lie to us because they can't be that stupid for free. They have to be getting paid to lie to us and pimp us. The evidence is there. This is why this show is different. We don't deal with that Simple Simon ass nonsense. So let's look at this very quickly here. We can skip over page 1. You can read this. But one of the things important it talks about here, since 1980, the total cost of both 4-year public and 4-year private college has nearly tripled, even after accounting for inflation. Federal support has not kept up. Pell Grants once covered nearly 80% of the cost of a 4-year public college degree for students from working families, but now only cover third, only about 32%. Pell Grants only cover about 32%. So people are forced to take student loans, whereas years ago, Pell Grants covered almost 80%. So the student loans that they took out were the amount was much lower. That has left many students from low and middle income families with no choice but to borrow if they want to get a college degree. According to a Department of Education analysis, the typical undergraduate student with loans now graduates with nearly $25,000 in debt. Okay, so they show this chart here. The cost of attending has skyrocketed, but federal support has not kept pace. The cost of attending college has skyrocketed, but federal support has not kept pace. Cost of college attendance and maximum Pell Grants in 2021 dollars. They look at the period of time 1980 to 2021. Okay, so you can check this out yourself. All right. Now, The skyrocketing cumulative federal student loan debt, $1.6 trillion and rising for more than 45 million borrowers, is a significant burden on America's middle class. Middle class borrowers struggle with high monthly payments. Middle class borrowers struggle with high monthly payments and ballooning balances that make it harder for them to build wealth, especially African Americans, harder for them to build wealth, like buying homes, putting away money for retirement, and starting small businesses. For the most vulnerable borrowers, the effects of debt are even more crushing. Nearly 1/3 of borrowers have debt but no degree. So this is what I was talking about a few minutes ago. This plan also applies to those people who have student loan debt, but for whatever reason didn't graduate from college, right? So they have the debt but no degree. Nearly 1/3 of borrowers have debt but no degree. But no degree, according to an analysis by the Department of Education of a recent cohort of undergraduates. Many of these students could not complete their degree because of the cost of attendance was too high. About 16% of borrowers are in default, including nearly 1/3 of senior citizens with student loan debt, which can result in the government garnishing a borrower's wages or lowering a borrower's credit score. Okay, nearly 1/3 of senior citizens, about 16% of borrowers are in default, including nearly 1/3 of senior citizens with student loan debt, okay, are in default. Now, the student debt burden also falls disproportionately on African American borrowers, okay? And I'm looking at this question here. Is that $20,000 cancellation applied to the principal? Is he eliminating the interest? More details are coming. More details are coming by December 31st, and you'll be able to apply online, things like this. I may have the information on that. The money should, the $20,000 should apply to the principal as opposed to interest. Okay, if I remember correctly. I got to go through and look at some more of this, but I think the $20,000 would apply to the principal. Okay, the student debt burden also falls disproportionately on Black borrowers. 20 years after enrolling in school, the typical African-American borrower, 20 years after first enrolling in school, the typical African-American borrower who started college in the 1995-96 school year still owed 95% of their original student debt, okay? So they were just paying on the interest. Today, President Biden announces a 3-part plan. So this is what I was talking about, a 3-part plan to provide more breathing room for America's working families as they continue to recover from the strains associated with COVID-19, okay? And I know some people have graduate degrees, things like this. So I know this will apply to undergraduate. More details are coming on this. Okay. Also, check out studentaid.gov, because when you go through this information, that's the website, because they'll have the information there, and they have where you'll be able to apply to get this discharge. Okay, studentaid.gov. All right. Now keep in mind, because a lot of people want more student loan debt discharge. President Joe Biden didn't run on being your student loan discharge and genie. Biden didn't run on canceling all student loan debt. That's not what he said. He said, $10,000. He didn't say I'm gonna cancel all you owe 120,000, 125. He didn't say he was gonna cancel all that. He never promised that. He actually, the 20,000 is above and beyond what he said, but there's more here that impacts everybody, because when you cap how much you pay back annually at 5% instead of 10%, that'll say that applies across the board to everybody, regardless of whether they qualify for the student loan forgiveness or not. That's part of this as well. So people have to understand, Biden never, he did not run on canceling all student loan debt. Now, Elizabeth Warren said $50,000, but as we're going to get into the information, the president does not have the authority to discharge that type of debt, and the president does not have authority to do broad student loan discharging, okay, of debt. It has to be means tested, and it has to be targeted. Congress does have that authority. So Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Chuck Schumer should be talking about getting, trying to push a bill through the Senate to discharge as much student loan debt as they wanted Biden to do. Because Schumer was trying to get Biden to do $50,000. Biden doesn't have that type of authority. Schumer knows that. Schumer's an attorney. He knows that. We'll get to that in just a minute. This has to do with misunderstanding the Higher Education Act of 1965. Okay. So for some people who have graduate degree debt and things like that, okay, this will help some, but Biden he didn't say he was just going to wipe out all your student loan debt. Okay. But if you qualify, but some people, okay, and like some people I know who are sending me messages now, some of them will qualify for the public service loan forgiveness program. So you want to, because I think the deadline on that is something like October 31st. Okay. So you want to go to pslf.gov for the public student loan forgiveness program. This is what's taking place now. And this is this is forgiveness that has been going on since March of this year. And this is something Biden talked about today. pls.gov or pslf.gov. Yeah, right here. Let's go to this. Okay. Now, also the other thing that's really, really important I want people to do, compare this to what Republicans are proposing. Compare this to how much Republicans are proposing to forgive in student loan debt, because they're not proposing to forgive anything in student loan debt. Okay. Public service loan forgiveness, pslf.gov. Learn about the time limited changes and how they apply. Because already a lot of people have been getting their debt discharged through this program here. Okay, so check that out. We'll post this link here. Because Senator Rick Scott is on vacation in Italy, and he attacked this program. Senator Rick Scott of Florida. He was on a yacht or something, and he was he attacked this program. Now, Republicans are not proposing anything. Republicans are not proposing to discharge student loan debt. As a matter of fact, you had, and I don't know why this article is not coming up from businessinsider.com. You had 5 Republicans who proposed a bill in May 2022 to strip Biden of the ability to discharge student loan debt. Because see, a lot of times people just like want perfection and don't compare Biden to the almighty, compare Biden to the alternative. Okay, so I got one more article. That's what Forbes is telling me they want me to buy a subscription. Mitt Romney proposes bill to stop Biden from canceling student loans. Did y'all hear about this? I talked about it here on this show. Senator Mitt Romney of Utah proposes bill to stop Biden from canceling student loans. May 19th, 2022. How many people heard about this? Willard Mitt Romney, who's worth about $250 million. He's worth about $250 million. And I close this stuff out. This is why I hate Forbes. They got too many videos popping up. Senator Mitt Romney wants to stop President Joe Biden from canceling student loans. Mitt Romney and 4 Republican senators introduced the Student Loan Accountability Act, which would prohibit the Biden administration from enacting wide-scale student loan cancellation to forgive all or some student loans for borrowers and include exemptions for existing targeted federal student loan forgiveness, student loan cancellation, or student loan repayment programs, such as public service loan forgiveness, which we just talked about, and teacher loan forgiveness. It makes no sense for the Biden administration to cancel nearly $2 trillion in student loan debt, says Senator Willard Mitt Romney, who's worth about $250 million. This decision would not only be unfair to those who already repaid their loans or decided to pursue alternative education paths, but it would be widely inflationary at a time of already historic inflation. Now, Biden addressed that today in the press conference as well. Democrats and Republicans alike have called on the president to not take the unwise step and pile more onto our $30 trillion national debt. Now, Republicans had no problem in giving the wealthy a $1.4 trillion tax cut. They ain't have any problem doing that. But when it comes to trying to bail out and help middle-class America with student loan debt, now it's a problem. And while this is Willard Mitt Romney, who's being quoted, and while the president's legal authority in forgiving this debt is dubious at best, because he has to be based upon a higher education at 1965, it goes through the Secretary of Education. It's not the president. That's why Biden didn't talk about an executive order today. That's why he didn't sign an executive order today. That's why when you read the fact sheet from the White House, and then also the statement that came out, the memo that came out from the Department of Education, nowhere in there does it talk about an executive order. Okay, so, and this is because in researching this because I kept hearing people saying, oh, Biden has authority, he can just do an executive order, wipe out student loan debt. No, he can't. And you can't cite nothing that says he can. That's a misunderstanding of the Higher Education Act of 1965. Our bill would ensure, this is Mitt Romney once again, our bill would ensure that he would be prevented from taking action, end quote. Don't compare Biden to the almighty, compare him to the alternative, because Republicans don't support the student loan forgiveness that Biden announced today. 5 Republican senators introduced similar legislation last month. So this article came out in May, so April. 5 Republican senators introduced similar legislation last month that also would prevent Biden from canceling student loans. Okay, read the rest of this here. Because this is what I'm saying, because I see people like just complaining that there should be more and things like this. Tell Elizabeth Warren. That's Congress that has the authority to pass that. Biden doesn't have the authority to do that. That's the legislative branch of government that has the authority to do that. The executive branch of government does not have the authority to cancel that type of student loan debt. All right, read this right here. And look, punk Senator Tom Cotton today of Arkansas. Go look at some of the comments of these Republicans who are attacking what's taking place today, while you got people crying, talking about, oh, it should be more. Look and see what happens if Republicans get in office. They'll shut all that down. All right, let's continue. Okay, let's go back to this right here. All right, I want to go back to the fact sheet here, right here. Okay, 3-part plan. Three-part plan to provide more breathing room to America's working families as they continue to recover from the strains associated with COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, number one, provide targeted debt relief to address the financial harms of the pandemic, fulfilling the president's campaign commitment, because he ain't campaign on 50,000, 60,000, 100,000. No, that's not what he promised. The Department of Education will provide up to $20,000 in debt cancellation to Pell Grant recipients with student loans held by the Department of Education, and up to $10,000 in debt cancellation to non-Pell Grant recipients. Okay, so if you only have student loans and not Pell Grants, it'd be up to $10,000. Borrowers are eligible for this relief if their individual income is less than $125,000, $250,000 for married couples. No high income individual or high income household in the top 5% will benefit from the action. To ensure a smooth transition to repayment and prevent unnecessary defaults, the pause on federal student loan repayment will be extended one final time through December 31st, 2022. So he announced today also extending student loan repayment through December 31st, 2022 as well. Okay. Now, borrowers should expect to resume payment in January 2023. Now, number two of the 3-part plan that Biden announced today, make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers. Make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers. Cutting monthly payments in half for undergraduate loans. Cutting monthly payments in half for undergraduate loans. The Department of Education is proposing a new income-driven repayment plan that protects more low-income borrowers from making any payments, and caps monthly payments for undergraduate loans at 5% of borrowers' discretionary income. At 5% of borrowers' discretionary income, half of the rate that borrowers must pay now under existing plans, because it's 10% now. This means the average student loan payment will be lowered by more than $1,000 for both current and future borrowers. Okay, the annual student loan payment will be lowered by more than $1,000 for both current and future borrowers. Number three, fixing the broken public service loan forgiveness program, and we were just talking about this, the PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, fixing the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program by proposing a rule that borrowers who have worked at a nonprofit organization, it's a whole lot of people I know who work at nonprofit organizations. Some of them been sending me messages, okay, who have worked at nonprofit organizations in the military or in federal, state, tribal, or local government receive appropriate credit toward loan forgiveness. These improvements will be temporary changes the Department of Education has already made to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, because this goes back to March of 2022. This is what I've been saying. They've been forgiving student loan debt under this program since March. And a lot of our people don't know this, and many of our people will qualify for this, under which more than 175,000 public servants have already had more than $10 billion in loan forgiveness approved. That's just this year. This is what's been going on, and a lot of our people don't know this. 175,000 public servants have already had more than $10 billion in loan forgiveness approved this year, since March of 2022, when they made the temporary changes to the public service loan forgiveness program. Okay, protect future. Hold on. I think this is 3. That's 2. Okay, this is 3. That was fix the broken public service loan forgiveness program. That was part of number 2, which was make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers. Okay, so that was part number 2. Number 3, okay, part of the 3-part program that Biden laid out today. Number 3, protect future students and taxpayers by reducing the cost of college and holding schools accountable when they hike up prices. Protect future students and taxpayers by reducing the cost of college and holding schools accountable when they hike up prices. The president championed the largest increase in Pell Grants in over a decade and one of the largest one-time influxes to colleges and universities. To further reduce the cost of college, the president will continue to fight to double the maximum Pell Grant and make community college free. Meanwhile, colleges have an obligation to keep prices reasonable and ensure borrowers get value for their investments, not debt they cannot afford. Meanwhile, colleges have an obligation to keep prices reasonable and ensure borrowers get value for their investment, not debt they cannot afford. The Biden-Harris administration has already taken key steps to strengthen accountability, including in areas where the previous administration, the Trump administration, the coup plotters, weakened these rules. The Department of Education is announcing new efforts to ensure student borrowers get value for their college costs. Okay, so then it goes through and talks about provide targeted debt relief, fulfilling the president's campaign commitment. Okay, so we laid that out. Now, nearly every Pell Grant recipient came from a family that made less than $60,000 a year. Pell Grant recipients typically experience more challenges repaying their debt than other borrowers. Borrowers who meet those income standards but did not receive a Pell Grant in college can receive up to $10,000 in loans. Okay, so then they go through and show this chart, break this down, dealing with Pell Grant recipients. Nearly all Pell Grant recipients come from families with incomes of $60,000 or less. Okay, so they go through and show that. That's page 5. Right here. The Pell Grant program is one of America's most effective financial aid programs, but its value has been eroded over time. Pell Grant recipients are more than 60% of the borrower population. Pell Grant recipients are more than 60% of the borrower population. The Department of Education estimates that roughly 27 million borrowers will be eligible to receive up to $20,000 in relief, helping these borrowers meet their economic potential and avoid economic harm from the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, current students with loans are eligible for this debt relief. Borrowers who are dependent students will be eligible for relief based on parental income rather than their own income. If all borrowers claim the relief they are entitled to, if all borrowers claim the relief they are entitled to, these actions will provide relief to up to $43 million borrowers, including canceling the full remaining balance for roughly 20 million borrowers. There's about 1/3 of the 43 million borrowers, okay? About 1/3 of them will totally get their student loan debt canceled out. And then, because they had the information in the article from ABC News today, 60%, 43, and then 20 million will have, 20 million will have their debt completely canceled, okay? And then you're dealing with another 20% that have like half their debt canceled. Where is that in here? Okay, we'll pull that up here. 20 million cancels. All right. We'll find that here. Okay. Okay, help borrowers of all ages. The Department of Education estimates that among borrowers who are eligible for relief, 21% are 25 years and under, and 44% are 26 to 39. More than 1/3 are borrowers aged 40 and up, including 5% of student loan borrowers who are senior citizens. Advanced racial equity. Okay, and we'll come to that here in just a second. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Hopefully you're learning a lot. Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. And we're going through breaking down the student loan forgiveness program that President Joe Biden announced today. We shared the press conference with you also at the beginning of the broadcast. We're going through looking at the fact sheet that is at whitehouse.gov. If you like this type of information and you've seen some of my broadcasts, you follow us here on Facebook and YouTube, the African History Network, and on Facebook and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. You can support the African History Network as well. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. At our website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. Our Cash App, we have our Cash App link and PayPal. Cash App is $TheAHNShow through Cash App, $TheAHNShow through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. So if you've learned anything from our broadcasts, you enjoy them. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. This is our official Cash App account. As you've heard me say before, $TheAHNShow, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael and shows my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts that have been stealing money from us. I'm trying to get them shut down. There's some other fake ones out there that I'm trying to get shut down also, okay? And then also I teach online history classes on Saturdays and Sundays. On Saturdays, normally it is ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do thousands of years of history, what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We're doing a special class on Thursday, August 25th, 7 p.m. to about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can register for that. It's on sale $60, regular $130. This time around, it's a 12-week online class. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Then Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we deal with history from 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase and the Haitian Revolution. We deal with the what leads up to the Civil War taking place. We do a Reconstruction, World War I, World War II, Jim Crow era, Great Migration, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement. Okay, to understand what happened to us after slavery ended, what were the laws and policies put in place to put us where we are today, to understand where we need to go from here. And we also have a bundle pack You can register for both classes for $100. This is at our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, our new website. Okay, let's continue here. And I'll post the link here so you can register for the classes also. Okay, I want to go back to this. All right, and let me post this. Okay, advanced racial equity. This is huge. This also ties into something that got like very, very little coverage was when they introduced the results of Executive Order 1395, which dealt with this right here. Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equity. We'll come to that in just a minute. That got very little coverage. Let me go to this right here. Okay, so we'll post this right here. All right. What about the students that went to Brown Mackie College? I'm not familiar with that. All right, another dumbass. Okay, let's continue. Okay, by targeting relief to borrowers with the highest economic need, the administration By targeting relief to borrowers with the highest economic need, the administration's actions are likely to help narrow the racial wealth gap. Black African American students are more likely to have to borrow for school and more likely to take out larger loans. African American borrowers are twice as likely to have received Pell Grants compared to their white peers. Other borrowers of color are also more likely than their peers to receive Pell Grants. That is why an Urban Institute study found that debt forgiveness programs targeting those who receive Pell Grants while in college will advance racial equity. So it goes on and talks about nearly 90% of debt cancellation benefits will go to borrowers earning less than $75,000. Okay, that's page 7. Okay, you can check that out. Okay, so they talk about the American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for. So once again, don't compare Biden and Democrats to the almighty or perfection. Compare them to the alternative. The Department of Education will work quickly and efficiently to set up a simple application process for borrowers to claim relief. The application will be available no later than when the pause on federal student loan repayments terminates at the end of the year, December 31st, 2022. Nearly 8 million borrowers may be eligible to receive relief automatically because their relevant income data is already available to the department, which means they don't have to apply. They don't have to fill out a form. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan that no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for, this debt relief will not be treated as taxable income for the federal income tax purposes. This debt relief will not be treated as taxable income. To help ensure a smooth transition back to repayment, the Department of Education is extending the student loan pause a final time through December 31st, 2022. No one with federally held loans has had to pay a single dollar in loan payments since President Biden took office. And we know it started under Trump. Okay, he was pushed, Democrats pushed to have the student loan forgiveness as well. And it continued under President Biden, the Biden-Harris administration. All right, let's see. Let's continue here. Okay, what am I going to go to next? We got that. Future borrowers. Make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers. Fixing existing loan repayment to lower monthly payments. The administration is reforming student loan repayment plans so both current and future low and middle income borrowers will have smaller and more manageable monthly payments. The Department of Education has the authority to create income-driven repayment plans, which cap what borrowers pay each month based on a percentage of their discretionary income, based upon a percentage of their discretionary income. Most of these plans cancel a borrower's remaining debt once they make 20 years of monthly payments. But the existing versions of these plans are too complex and too limited. As a result, millions of borrowers who might benefit from them do not sign up, and the millions who do sign up are still often left with unmanageable monthly payments. To address these concerns and follow through on Congress' original vision for income-driven repayment, the Department of Education is proposing a rule to do the following. For undergraduate loans, cut in half the amount of borrowers, for undergraduate loans, cut in half the amount that borrowers have to pay each month from 10% to 5% of discretionary income. Raise the amount of income that is considered non-discretionary income and therefore is protected for repayment, guaranteeing that no borrower earning 225% of the federal poverty level, about the annual equivalent of a $15 an hour minimum wage job for a single borrower, will have to make a monthly payment. Next, forgive loan balances after 10 years of payments. Forgive loan balances after 10 years of payments instead of 20 years for borrowers with original loan balances of $12,000 or less. Okay, this is for forgive loan balances after 10 years of payments instead of 20 years for borrowers with original loan balances of $12,000 or less. The Department of Education estimates that this reform will allow nearly all community college borrowers to be debt-free within 10 years. Next, cover the borrower's unpaid monthly interest so that, unlike other existing income-driven repayment plans, no borrower's loan balance will grow as long as they make their monthly payments, even when that monthly payment is zero because their income is low. Now, these reforms would simplify loan repayment and deliver significant savings to low and middle income borrowers. For example, a typical single construction worker making $38,000 a year with a construction management credential would pay only $31 a month compared to the $147 a month they pay now under the most recent income-driven repayment plan for annual savings of nearly $1,400. They would save nearly $1,400 a year under the new plan. Next example, a typical single public school teacher with an undergraduate degree making $44,000 a year would pay only $56 a month on their loans compared to the $197 a month they pay now under the most recent income-driven repayment plan for an annual savings of $1,700 a month. Annual savings, $1,700 a year. A typical nurse making $77,000 a year who is married with 2 kids would pay $61 a month on their undergraduate loans compared to the $295 they pay now under the most recent income-driven repayment plan for annual savings of more than $2,800. See, this is an example of how politics impacts every aspect of our lives. And these laws and policies have a big impact on us, impact on finances, impact on the economy. Okay, so they go through and break this chart down. Okay, that's page 10. Then they go and they talk about protecting borrowers and taxpayers. Okay, so they talk about the public service loan forgiveness program also. Borrowers working in public service are entitled to earn credit toward debt relief under the public service loan forgiveness program. But because of complex eligibility restrictions, historic implementation failures, and poor counseling given to borrowers, many borrowers have not received the credit they deserve for their public service. The Department of Education has announced time-limited changes to the public service loan forgiveness program that provide an easier path to forgiveness of all outstanding debt for eligible federal student loan borrowers who have served at a nonprofit, in the military or in federal, state, tribal, or local government for at least 10 years, including non-consecutively. Those who have served less than 10 years may now more easily get credit for their service to date toward eventual forgiveness. These changes allow eligible borrowers to gain additional credit toward forgiveness, even if they had been told previously that they had the wrong loan type, even if they had been told previously that they had the wrong loan type. Okay, read the rest of this. They talk about different things that qualify, allowing certain kinds of deferments, but such as those for, Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, all of that. Protecting borrowers and taxpayers from steep increases in college costs. Now, while providing this relief to low and middle income borrowers, the president is focused on keeping college costs under control. Under this administration, students have had more money in their pockets to pay for college. The president signed the largest increase to the maximum Pell Grant in over a decade and provided nearly $40 billion to colleges and universities through the American Rescue Plan. Also, HBCUs got $5.8 billion in 2021 from the Biden-Harris administration. $1.6 billion came from the American Rescue Plan as well. That was a record number. That was a record amount of funding that HBCUs got. There's a fact sheet at whitehouse.gov that breaks this down also. I've talked about that numerous times before. Okay, nearly $40 billion to colleges and universities through the American Rescue Plan, much of which was used for emergency student financial aid, allowing students to breathe a little easier. Okay, additionally, the Department of Education has already taken significant steps to strengthen accountability so that students are not left with mountains of debt with little payoff. The agency has reestablished the enforcement unit of the Office of Federal Student Aid, the enforcement unit of the Office of Federal Student Aid, and it is holding accreditors' feet to the fire. In fact, the department just withdrew authorization for the accreditor that oversaw schools responsible for some of the worst for-profit scandals. Once again, this is what I've been talking about. The Biden-Harris administration has been really cracking down on these for-profit colleges. The agency will also propose a rule to hold career programs accountable for leaving their graduates with mountains of debt they cannot repay, a rule the previous administration repealed. This is what happened under the Trump administration. The Trump administration reversed the policy from the Obama-Biden administration that would keep the borrowers from having to pay this debt for leaving graduate amounts. Yep. The agency will also propose a rule to hold career programs accountable for leaving their graduates with mountains of debt they cannot repay. Yeah. Under Betsy DeVos, the Trump Department of Education backed off of holding these nonprofit colleges accountable. Okay. So read the rest of this also. Then go to studentaid.gov. As I told you before, studentaid.gov debt relief. They have the information here that breaks down what we know so far. Okay, about the program. And that is where did that go? Okay, it was one of these here. I'll find it. All right, now I want to go to very quickly here. It was I want to look at let's look at this quickly here. We looked at ITT Tech. We already looked at that one. Let's look at this information here dealing with the student loan forgiveness by executive order legal. Is student loan forgiveness by executive order legal? Notice today you didn't hear Biden say anything about executive order. When you go through and look at this information, it says nothing about executive order. We look at the information from the Department of Education as well as from the White House. It says nothing about executive order. Okay, student loan forgiveness. Where is this one here? Okay, this is what I want right here. Because a lot of people are under the misconception. Can you all see okay? Okay, a lot of people are under the misconception that Biden can just do an executive order and just discharge all the student loan debt. Is student loan debt forgiveness by executive order legal? This is from thecollegeinvestor.com, but there are other sources out there you can look at as well. This is from updated August 24th, 2022 by Mark Kantrowitz. So he says Senators Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, and Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, want President Joe Biden to forgive $50,000 in federal student loans per borrower. They claim that he can do this unilaterally through executive order. They claim he can do this unilaterally through executive order. President Biden has promised to forgive $10,000 in student loan debt per borrower, but wants Congress to pass legislation to implement it. The $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief plan proposed by President Biden does not include any student loan. The $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan, the American Rescue Plan, does not include any student loan forgiveness. Okay. Legislation to forgive student loans is unlikely to occur before the end of summer, since payments on federal student loans are paused until December 31st, 2022. Okay, editors note some dates have been updated in this article to reflect the current student loan payment pause being extended through December 31st, 2022. Is student loan forgiveness by executive order legal? Is student loan forgiveness by executive order legal? Okay, can the president cancel all federal student loans? The president does not have the legal authority to forgive loans on his own. Only Congress has the power of the purse. That's Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the U.S. Constitution. The ability to tax and spend belongs to Congress, the power of the purse. Executive action can be used only when it has been specifically authorized by Congress. The executive branch, the presidency, cannot spend money that has not been appropriated by Congress. Okay. And look at Article 1, Section 7, Clause 7 of the U.S. Constitution. For that, but also power of the purse. If we just pull up power of the purse right quick. We'll look at the information from Cornell University Law School. They should have the information from Cornell. The law school. Okay, government and the power of the purse. Let's pull this up. Hold on, where is that? Okay, we'll look at house.gov, power of the purse. House.gov, which is Article 1, Section 7. Article 1, Section 7. Okay, no, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7. I was correct. This right here. It was distorted when I highlight text. Shouldn't be. Okay, power of the purse. This is from house.gov, which is the website of the U.S. House of Representatives, official website of the U.S. House of Representatives. This is history.house.gov. This is in the history section of the House of Representatives. Power of the purse. Now, Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution says, all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on the bills. Now, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7, which is what I was talking about, quote, no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Okay, so that deals with power of the purse. The ability to tax and spend belongs to Congress. And Congress appropriates the money. This is why the annual federal budget, the White House proposes the annual federal budget, but it goes to Congress for them and their respective committees in the House and the Senate to vote on different parts of the annual federal budget that the White House sends to Congress. Okay, so read the rest of this here. Power of the purse. Okay, this is what we're looking at here. All right, now, the executive branch cannot spend money that has not been appropriated by Congress. The claims that the president has the authority to forgive student loans are based on misreading the Higher Education Act of 1965. And this is what I was hearing. I was hearing all these progressives the past few months, different shows saying Biden has the authority. He just has to sign the executive order, blah, 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 to do this, right? First of all, I've been on a committee to write an executive order. That's hard work. I was on a committee to write an executive order for the city of Detroit. It took us 13 months to get it done because it went through different revisions. People think the president just signs a sheet of paper. No, it takes legal research to do, to be able to put together executive orders. You have to coordinate with different departments. It's not like a proclamation, like the president just sitting down writing out a Christmas wish list or something like that. That's not what executive order is. That's hard work. I've been on a committee to write one. Okay, so let's go back to this here. But what happened was when I would hear people say the president has the authority to do an executive order, discharge student loan debt, they never cited the law that they claim gave the president the authority. Because I kept wondering, what law are they talking about? They never cited the law that they claim gave the president the authority. The claims that the president has the authority to forgive loans are based on a misreading of the Higher Education Act of 1965 at 20 U.S.C. 1082, Section A6. That section of the Higher Education Act of 1965 provides the U.S. Secretary of Education with the authority to modify, compromise, waive, or release any right, title, claim, lien, or demand, however acquired, including any equity or any right of redemption, including any equity or any right of redemption. But that quote is taken out of context. The preamble to that section of the Higher Education Act of 1965 limits this authority to operating within the scope of the statute. Quote, in the performance of and with respect to the functions, powers, and duties vested in him by this part, the secretary may, not the president, the secretary may. It goes on to say, in other words, when Congress authorizes a loan forgiveness program, such as public service loan forgiveness, teacher loan forgiveness, or the total and permanent disability discharge, the U.S. Secretary of Education has the authority to forgive student loans as authorized under the terms of these loan forgiveness programs, which is why U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona was standing next to President Joe Biden today. And Biden was talking about we're going to work together on this because the president don't have the authority to do that. The Secretary of Education does. Without authorization by Congress of a specific loan forgiveness program, the president does not have the authority to forgive student loan debt. This is why a lot of these progressives running around saying the president can just do an executive order, discharge $50,000. No, he can't. He doesn't have the authority. Stop making stuff up. Without authorization by Congress of a specific loan forgiveness program, the president does not have the authority to forgive student loan debt. As the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Whitman versus American Trucking Associations, Inc., Congress does not hide elephants in mouse holes. In addition, this language refers to Part B of Title IV of the Higher Education Act of 1965, which applies only to loans made under the Federal Family Education Loan Program, FFEL. Okay, read the rest of this here. They talk some more about the Higher Education Act. They have a video there as well. Okay, the president doesn't have the authority to just do executive orders and just discharge student loan debt. So check out this article here. The College Investor, collegeinvestor.com. Is student loan forgiveness by executive order legal? Is student loan forgiveness by executive order legal? No, it's not. And that's why today you didn't hear Biden talk about an executive order. Check this out from the New York Times. New York Times has some good information on this, answering questions. What you need to know about Biden's loan forgiveness plan. New York Times. President Biden's move means the student loan balances of millions of people could fall as much as $20,000. The frequently asked question, this frequently asked question explains how it will work. Okay, so check this out also. Once again, for all the people who want to talk how much money is going to Ukraine, the annual federal budget for 2023 is $5.8 trillion from the U.S. government. Now 54 billion or 70 billion. And then also this is costing taxpayers as well. Because people like talk about how much money going to Ukraine. Now they ain't saying nothing about Afghanistan, but they just want to talk about Ukraine. Between 300, how much will this cost the federal government and taxpayers? According to an estimate using a model that the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania, is one of the top business schools in the country, that the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania developed, the cost of the $10,000 cancellation initiative alone could range between $300 billion to $980 billion. Okay. So when people think, oh, they just cancel debt. Oh, it's free. They just cancel debt. What the real world work like that? The way it works like in your head, the real world